With our session today, we have the great pleasure to hear about City of Good. Maybe you have seen and heard about City of Good in these last few months. They are up to a lot of good here in Boise and the Treasure Valley. And today we are so privileged to have two people who have been a big part of City of Good. And they are excited to share with us some more information about how they got started and to be able to get something started in the midst of COVID and everything happening. I am so excited for this conversation with Kathy and Russ. Let me introduce you first to Kathy. Kathy is so many things at City of Good. You also might know Kathy as the sponsor liaison for the Treefort Music Festival. And then with City of Good, Kathy has been doing a little bit of everything. Executive director roles, intern roles, she told me. She is getting things done with City of Good, and we are so excited to have Kathy here with us on this conversation. And Russ Stoddard, many of you know Russ as the owner of, the founder of Oliver Russell. He is also a board member for City of Good, and he's up to lots of things beyond those those roles as well. But we're so excited for this conversation with Kathy and Russ. Let me start it off with an easy one, and I'm not sure if this will be a Kathy or a Russ answer, but how did City of Good get started? I've been hearing some rumblings about it for a while, and what's the story behind it? How did City of Good come to fruition? How did it get started?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump on that. We went into quarantine in the state, and the pandemic occurred. And Dave Crick, who's the owner of the Bitter Creek Ale House family of restaurants downtown and a big community guy, well, he pulled a Batman on us, which is he basically sent out a bat signal to a lot of people who are very involved in the community and said, hey, I think we're in for big problems here. I think people are going to need to have food to eat. I think there's going to be restaurant workers out of work. So I think we need to figure out a way here in the community to put those restaurant workers back to work, making food that we can then distribute to people who are experiencing hunger as a result of the COVID epidemic. So that's basically how it started. And then, of course, when Dave calls, all the community all-stars start answering. So you have people from any number of walks of life who stand up day in and day out around the community, but especially when there's a disaster that happens, they all answered, and we quickly went into startup mode and thought, what the hell? Let's figure out a way to raise some money, get some food to people, and it kind of started from there.
Awesome. Kathy, how did this start for you? How did you get involved?
Yeah, kind of what Russ is saying. I knew at the time that I didn't want to just be quarantined at home, knowing there were people in our community who needed help. And actually, Treefort Music Festival I worked for was one of those institutions that came to the call that Russ mentioned. And I said, I want to be a part of that. What is it that you think you need help with? Do you need help distributing food? Do you need help on the back end of things? And from there, I just got sucked into this amazing endeavor. And there was a simultaneous need to help the Boise Farmers Market, and that was a place where we continue to lend a hand even now. And a couple months later now, here I am really involved with some of the most amazing characters in Boise, some of the really big change makers. So that's how I got involved.
Awesome. And, it's just getting started, and not that you need to tie yourselves down to a super long mission statement or anything like that. But if somebody asked, what's the mission of City of Good? What is City of Good trying to accomplish? Kathy, how would you answer that?
We've gone round and round on this with different iterations, and we're getting very close to feeling like we've come to the true distillation of our mission. And Russ, you'll have to maybe correct me on some of this, but essentially, we want to be a collective body that amplifies the good that we're all able to do. Socially conscious businesses that come together. What can we do to optimize their input together to create a more fulfilling, sustainable, and just environment for everyone in our community? So that's a pretty big, broad statement. But when you distill it down into the programs we're currently working on, I think that's where the action is taking place.
Awesome. And I've seen you work on food projects, masks. I know you've been getting out masks and doing some fundraising around that. It's been so interesting to see this come together. And I've been a little on the outside, kind of looking in a little bit. But Russ, here's a question for you. Do you think City of Good would have come together without COVID-19 kind of propelling it, like really showing the need? Like, do you think this would have all come together, or is this just a really genuine response to some really big needs happening right now?
Geez, Kenton, it's a little bit of both. I have been thinking about a format for a City of Good type organization that can really do a good job of empowering and connecting socially minded leaders to use their business for the power of good here in the community for quite a while. Of course, good intentions never result in action. So as I said, I've been thinking about it and different versions of it. And it really took something like COVID to catalyze it and go, right off the top, like, okay, we have a need in the community. We're not going to stand around and wait a long time. And to Kathy's point, she did a great job with the evolving sort of mission statement, which we're very, very close to having. But, we're all startup sort of entrepreneur type folks. So we didn't let a mission statement get in the way of us actually putting boots on the ground and helping out people to start. So we just jumped at it, right?
And Russ, can you describe, how did you jump at it in the midst of quarantine? And for a while there, we were all just at home, and now things have opened up, a little bit. But how did you accomplish things when no one could get together, and it was so challenging it seemed like just to function and just to keep your family kind of whole and sane? How did you all come together to begin to? I mean, I've seen. I think it's some. I was going to say a microbrew, but that might be that might not be the right word. But I mean, you're all selling products in stores. You're helping feed people. You're connecting restaurants to do so many things. Like, how did you actually accomplish all this in March, April, May, in the midst of quarantine and so many changes?
Well, geez, I think that's the power of business and small business in some regards. I think any number of the folks who are involved do this sort of thing on a daily basis, maybe not to the magnitude or to the intensity level of what's happened with the pandemic, but everyone's very accustomed to shifting seas and what have you. And one moment you think you're the king, and the next minute you are the pauper. So I think by character, we're all well suited to it. And then I'll add another aspect to it, which is the community really rallied behind the cause. So there is a lot of help. So you think about the beer or candles or T-shirts, any number of products that people in the community stepped up and said, hey, I want to do something to help. I want to create a product. I want the proceeds to go to City of Good and putting restaurant workers back to work and feeding kids. So it was kind of those two deals. I think we're all suited for that. We've all become near pros at Zoom. I won't say total pros. And we dedicated an awful lot of time to it. It's kind of crazy that all of us are dealing with our own businesses that are struggling for survival right now. So it makes it very, very tough. And short of that, it's like, holy crap, man, we spent a lot of time, a lot of good people, a lot of good time.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you this, Kathy, because you're so involved, obviously, with Tree Fort, and Tree Fort had its own challenges, and I'm sure many discussions about what to do. The initial postponement and then things that have happened since then. But
Mhm.
but like Russ just said, you've got your own thing that you're trying to keep going and hopefully not only survive but thrive.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is it about entrepreneurs that I hope it's not that we just can't say no. We just don't know how to say no. But really, like, what is it about entrepreneurs and people locally, especially local entrepreneurs that you know and have seen these past few months, that
Mhm.
even though they have their own challenges and struggles and really important things they need to work on, that they're willing to step up and
Yeah.
help. What have
Yeah.
you learned? What have you seen? What's your experience been like working with these kinds of people?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. That's such a great way to put it. Boise, I feel like, is really unique, and I can say this as a proud person who was born at St. Luke's Hospital and have lived here my whole life. So I've seen this happen time and again. You rest Fred's Tree Fort, and as we all know, that is a festival built by the community for the community, and it's very important that everyone feels that their voice is welcome, that their voice is important, and that same sort of ideology flows through, I think, a lot of things that you see throughout Boise. It happens every day when small businesses come out to support one another, whether it's doing a custom beer together or the candles, or just even trying to support each other through their social media, those small businesses coming together. And I think City of Good is no different. When it occurred to us that there was this need to make sure that everyone was being fed fresh produce that was just becoming available in the springtime. We have a lot of local growers and producers who, and those restaurants were having to be closed down. Suddenly, where were they going to be able to sell their produce when those restaurants typically would have been buying that? Well, there were several different things that kind of came together at once. And when you look at the groups who are involved, it's Treefort, it's the Boise Co-op, it's groups like Boise State University, just these Boise institutions who have always been there and tried to work together collectively. It's not a surprise that City of Good came about and is doing the work it's continuing to do this day. And there's new institutions that are coming about. Kin Restaurant is a terrific example of this. Chris Kamori and his team over there, they were set to open their restaurant essentially the same week that COVID reached the boundaries of our city and shut everything down. And instead of just pulling back and saying, how are we going to save our business? They looked broadly and they said, let's pivot and be supportive of this community because there's more need out there beyond just ours. And because of that, I think they're really poised to become one of those solid Boise institutions recognized as a socially conscious business, just as all these other institutions are.
Russ, you've been in a socially conscious business for many, many, many years. Is it just your experience and almost just the truth that it seems like to me? I've only been doing this for a few years, but you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. But it seems like something Kathy just said, where a business has a choice to either pull back and kind of focus just on themselves and what they need to do to survive, or to really open up and pivot and see where they can help and how they can collaborate. And it seems like the more they give away, the more they do with open hands, it seems like they're met with success, whether that's revenue or partnerships or increased opportunities, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that in just a few years. Is that something you've seen throughout your career, Russ, as businesses either closing up and trying to protect themselves and maybe struggling, or just opening themselves and maybe seeing some surprising success?
Well, yeah, I'm a longtime advocate that the more you give, the more you get ultimately, and sometimes the lines trace back to that initial giving very indirectly, if ever. And I can only speak from our personal experience at Oliver Russell, but to be open, to welcoming, to give of your resources. Ultimately, people in the community, institutions, businesses, they recognize that. So do shoppers and what have you, and they want to align with that ultimately. And then I know this one doesn't quite add up, but I'm a big believer in the universe, and that when you do these sort of things, it will come back to you at some point in time. And I think, unfortunately, what we see right now in society is there is a sharp a schism, I think, almost between those who are pulling back and just thinking about themselves, just singularly. And then at the same time, there is a large group that's thinking about the collective, the group, and the community. So I think it's that latter group that has always served us so well, and which we see a larger preponderance of it here in Boise than I think you do in other communities.
Yeah, awesome. Kathy, I've got a kind of a nuts and bolts question for you. We've got many entrepreneurs, maybe aspiring entrepreneurs, watching this session today. For this to be in January, February, just something in Russ's head, some things he's thinking about. And then when COVID hits, and now it's March, April, and as this really starts to take shape with City of Good, and as it starts to come together, what was the biggest challenge for you, for the organization? What was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome to really gain traction and give this thing a good start?
Yeah. I think I'll just kind of tag on to what Russ was just talking about, and more of that, what are you putting out in the universe, and what are you going to get back out of it? That beautiful word karma. There is a lot of passion that needs to go into these things, I believe. And I think you have to come at it with a very true heart, with true intent, knowing that you are working to help someone that you may never meet, and that there's an inherent ROI for you when you put that work out there for someone else. And I understand that's a very broad statement, but there is I think a really important human emotion component behind what we're doing. You could say that empathy, compassion, and patience are the things that our products actually are built on. And we'll talk a little bit more about our products later on. But you also need to remember empathy, compassion, and patience for one another and yourself. Right now, we are being run by a volunteer board, and they are the ones who are doing all of the work and the decision making to move things forward. They are working very hard to bring in other community partners who want to work and be part of City of Good. And like Russ said, they are all trying to keep their own businesses afloat and take care of their employees. But knowing at the end of the day that we are creating a product, and I keep using that word product, that is serving the purpose of more than solving one problem singularly, that it's creating something that serves many different purposes, knowing that you're using your time wisely in that sense. I think that makes it easier for me personally to move forward on this project and to take a deep breath at the end of the day that's been really stressful maybe, and just say, okay, that was a hard day, but what did we build and accomplish today? Can I look back and point to something that I feel really good about?
And that's a great segue too into more of the work that City of Good is doing. What are those things that you look at the end of the day and you say, I'm excited to be a part of this, and I love how you describe, it's not just one thing, but it is multiple things that you're accomplishing. So Kathy, what gets you excited about City of Good? What are some of the projects, products, and things that you're doing that have you so excited about this?
Thank you. Yeah, it's our 1 + 1 = 3 model, I think, that we have in mind. So if you're going to put an effort on something, make sure it's working to turn the cogs elsewhere to keep the effort moving forward. Our primary project that we're working on right now is a meal kit program that goes to serve underprivileged children at the community schools within the Boise School District. And the way it works is that we had some very generous funders early on, some donations that basically kickstarted this whole thing. And with that money, we are able to re-employ many of those kitchen teams, those restaurant workers who had seen reduced hours because of the pandemic. Bringing them back into the kitchen also meant that we could, again, be able to make sure we're purchasing food from local producers and helping to protect that really fragile local farm ecosystem, and create these meals for kids who are food insecure, essentially. Right now, at the time of this recording, the community schools have nearly 3,000 students within their school. We are able to create 150 of these meal kits every week. And inside of a meal kit are 6 separate meals that we give to these children every Friday. And each meal is made using that farm fresh produce, no less than 30 to 40%. So we're really focused on nutrient dense foods. And it's these same chefs in these restaurants, these partner restaurants that we work with, who are then being reemployed at a livable wage, which is another key issue for us, is ensuring that these people are being brought back and paid something that is livable. And we're able to distribute those at these couple different Title I schools every week. This is a program we're really, really proud of. We want to continue to see grow, and we are poised to scale it. And part of the way that we fund that is also through selling meals that anyone can buy. A lot of folks choosing to have virtual events or in-person events can buy a number of these. They contact us. And let's just say for $15, our basic food meal, $6 of that is going to reemploy that restaurant worker at a livable wage. 4 of that is ensuring that we are buying the farm fresh produce. And the remaining $5 then goes to support the school kit program that we run on the weekends.
Wow, that's much more than just we're getting food to kids, in who need it in school. And I love that you've combined huge needs from COVID, for sure, the restaurant workers that are out of jobs. And I hate that I'm admitting this, but almost didn't even think about the fact that there are so many farmers and small farms, big farms that would typically be selling their produce to restaurants or farmers market or whatever it might be. And as those opportunities are diminished, where do they sell this really good produce? I just love it. I love what you all are doing. Russ, how can we keep this going? What does City of Good need to do to as Kathy said, kind of be ready to scale and keep this going, even maybe when things are back to, well, I don't want to say normal, but just outside of COVID, is City of Good something that is going to stick around, and how is that possible? How can City of Good keep on going?
Yeah, I'll take, is it going to be around? Absolutely, it's going to be around. We all recognize there is a near-term need, and hopefully this particular one will be short-term, whether that's another 3 months, 6 months, a year, or what have you, and that very, very soon we'll be able to go back to a different version of normal life or what have you. But within that, we also recognize that there was a distinct opportunity to create and catalyze a network of socially responsible businesses that could help the community on a day in, day out basis. And when the bat signal gets thrown out there into the sky, come to help the community on issues and problems of short-term emphasis. As far as ways people can help, well, for starters, moolah. All those meals that we're giving to kids require money. So you can make a donation on our website. If you work at a company and your company has grants or makes donations, encourage them to do it. We have the products like the City of Good beer that's being sold at the co-op right now. We're also selling face masks that are branded as City of Good. So those generate funds not only for City of Good, but they also go to create employment at a fantastic business here in town called Style Her Empowered She, which employs amazing, you know these folks, Kenton. amazing refugee seamstresses and fashion designers to make them. So it goes to what Kathy spoke of earlier, that 1+1=3 model. So those are some ways, as well as, hey, if you want to volunteer and you have professional services, whether you're a web designer, whether you're a finance person or what have you, we'd love to have some help on the team, especially longer term. And Kathy, I don't know if I missed anything there.
Russ, I think you hit the high notes for sure. Yeah.
And I'm going to make Kathy share a little bit more, and we'll look a little bit more too about how those are wonderful ways to get involved, Russ. And there might be a few more, but Kathy, as you look towards the future with City of Good, I'm assuming it's been fun to watch Tree Fort grow these past few years. It's been fun for me to see it become really just, I mean, if not world class, it's pretty close, right? It's awesome. Tree Fort is so awesome. And so seeing that, start as something small and then become this really amazing thing. Not that City of Good has to follow that exact same path, but what are some of your hopes for the future of City of Good? And then especially as you're kind of the one main person right now, and you're doing a little bit of everything.
And she's kicking butt at it.
And yes, she's dominating. But what are your highest priorities as you look at where you want this to go, and for you to help make that happen? What are some of your big priorities? So I'm giving you a lot there, but where do you hope this can go? And then as a leader, what are your priorities to help make that happen?
I think highest priority that I feel pulled towards is ensuring that everyone in this community, much like Tree Fort, if you have the will, are you feeling the call to action, then come talk to us, because that's the only way we're going to continue to grow. What we can offer back to the community is the strength within our community. How do we harness that? How do we make sure that everyone has a voice at our table and can help us move forward? That means reaching out to us directly, not being shy. I think we're all pretty nice people. We're fun to talk to. And that's, essentially it's kind of the Tree Fort model like you're talking about. And I think the reason Tree Fort has scaled to the extent it has and been so successful is we have this sense of love and caring for one another and forgiveness of our human frailties. We have to remember these things in business. It's not just about ROI. It's about what you're putting out there. And that's the same can be said for your people. Coming together, again, referring back over to Tree Fort, we still to this day say, hey, Tree Fort is magic. You're awesome. I got your back. Those are the three things we say to each other whenever we are producing on site, whenever we're working our brains out and we're all clearly tired. But knowing at the end of the day that we have a product that we are putting out there into the world that people can feel that they're a part of, that's what keeps us moving forward. I would like to see that come together in City of Good as well. Our direct needs right now are what Russ referred to is basically manpower and professional services. There's things like grant writing, there's marketing things that we need, anything that any small startup or nonprofit needs in the very beginning. There's a huge rush of everything's a priority. So how do we work through that? Well, again, slowly, just come to us, have those conversations with us. We're going to be talking with some different groups here in the near future that we think may provide some funding that we're hopeful for, but we want to make sure that what we are advertising, what we are talking about, what we are saying about ourselves rings true for everyone in this community. So hopefully that was as clear an answer as your question was clear to me.
I love it. I love it. You are... You both have been very full of grace with my interview skills here, which are non-existent. But this is such a fun conversation, and I want to encourage anybody watching this session. If you're a student in high school, if you're a student in college, if you live here in the Boise area, And maybe you're not an entrepreneur. You just love living here, working here. Or if you are an entrepreneur, you're just getting something started, or maybe you are rocking and rolling on a business that you've had for many years. I'm going to guarantee that Kathy and Russ can find a place for you with City of Good. And I love Kathy saying, talk to us. Let's connect. Let's talk. And that's really where these things start. And I today with this conversation, I have so enjoyed the visual imagery that you all speak with. I am going to leave today, and I'm going to remember Russ talking about putting up the bat signal. That is such a visual image for, in a time of need, we put up the bat signal as community leaders, and people rally to it. And I get that, and for people out there, I hope you get that too. You might not know anything about nonprofits and grant writing, and that's fine. But to understand that when there's a need and someone puts up that bat signal and asks for you to rally and respond, I love that. And I love 1 + 1 is 3. And I think that is such a cool commitment for City of Good to want to not just do one thing. It's not just one, and even not just 1 + 1. It's 1 + 1 = 3. Let's do all the good we can. And I saw that, and I need to go buy one of the face masks right now, because I love Style Her Empowered and what Peyton's doing there. I'm on the board over there. I love it. And I love that you didn't just want to do a fundraiser for City of Good and just, try to raise a few dollars, but it's 1 + 1 is 3. How can we try to raise a few dollars? How can we help out another organization? How can we keep people a little healthier by wearing face masks and encouraging that? It's trying to accomplish several things with one collective effort. I love that. And so I hope everybody goes out and buys a beer, and they buy a face mask, and they go talk to you. And when they see the bat signal go up, I hope we all rally and respond. I just love this. And in our last few minutes, I was going to ask Russ, I've got one question for you. Kathy, I've got one final question for you. Russ, what are you most proud about in these last few months, seeing City of Good get off the ground? What are you most proud about?
Oh, what am I most proud about? Well, you hear stories about people who truly are experiencing hunger, and the fact that we've been able to help them, not near as many as we'd like to. That's a real reward to be have that human level connection here in the community. And then the other aspect of it is to watch all these total butt kickers who are really, really struggling for survival at their own businesses. And I mean, it's up and down for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
And we probably should have both hands on the steering wheels at our own businesses. But no, we take one hand off our steering wheel and we put it on another steering wheel, and we steer with other people in the community. So those would be the things.
I love it.
I think Russ watches a lot of action movies because he's got the bat and he's got the steering. I'm imagining like Keanu Reeves on the bus, the steering
He's
wheel.
a visual guy. You talk to Russ, and you're just seeing all these.
It's how I make my living. What can I say?
Right.
I'm a ringer.
And Kathy, my question for you. So as people begin to hear the name City of Good, as they begin to learn a little bit about it, and as it becomes part of the community here in Boise, what do you hope people, the first thing they think about when they think about City of Good, as it begins to form in their brains, as they begin to hear about it? What do you hope is the first thing that people think about, or if they only remember one thing, what do you want people to remember and to know about City of Good?
Oh, I hope that when they see our logo, they go, "Oh, City of Good, those guys are awesome." I hope that's the initial reaction people have, and that it is associated in their mind with that 1 + 1 = the good of 3 plus. I just want them to have that visceral, that, oh, it's a City of Good meal. Those are awesome. Do you know what those guys do? That's the reaction I want people to have.
Love it. I love it. And I know I'm walking away from this conversation saying City of Good is awesome, and this is so great, and I'm excited about ways that I can get involved a little bit more. For everyone out there listening and watching, thank you so much for joining us today. There are so many ways for you to get involved with City of Good. And Kathy and Russ are fantastic people and are always up for a conversation, an email, a phone call. I mean, feel free to reach out to them, and they will make sure to get you involved. Boise Startup Week, if you have any questions that we can help answer to connect you to City of Good and in these right places, feel free to reach out to me. I guess I should have introduced myself at the beginning. My name is Kenton Lee. I'm a Nampa guy. I'm out in Nampa with an organization called Because International. But I hope I am someone who can respond to a bat signal for Nampa, for Boise, for the Treasure Valley. And so any of us, myself, Kathy, Russ, we would love to get you and your company and your skills and your strengths. We would love to get you involved with City of Good so that we can keep turning 1 + 1 into 3 and even more. I love it so much. Again, thank you, Russ. Thank you, Kathy. This has been fun. And that's all she wrote. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.